So I had tried to install the engine back onto the transmission, the manual transmission, just kind of lining up the clutch and everything on my own and bolting the clutch on, and that didn't work. So I found out you're supposed to get an alignment tool as you're bolting on the clutch to have it lined up so that that rod with the splines on the transmission will line up correctly onto the transmission. So I'm gonna pull one of these out and reinstall the clutch. Okay, so I took off the clutch and the flywheel because I forgot to put the bell housing on, so we put that back on and torqued back the flywheel to about 85 foot-pounds, and this time put the clutch back on using this alignment tool to make sure the clutch is in the right position so it'll line up on the rod down there in the transmission. This piece I use fits good. I bought two of them because I wasn't sure. I have a bigger one, it's the wrong one. This is the one I used that is correct, and I got that off Amazon. Alright, so that should be lined up. It should slide into the transmission this time. We worked quite a long time last time trying to line it up and just wouldn't go in and realize we were doing it wrong. And we right now just kind of generally timed it. We put it on the number one top dead center on the number one cylinder, and we have the distributor back on where it should be sparking right on the first plug wire that goes to the first cylinder. So that's generally lined up. We might do some adjusting there to make it run smoother. And that's it for now. So me and Ryan worked for, would you say, more than an hour or a couple hours? Just trying to force the engine back into the transmission. Any tips for that, Ryan? Seemed like we maybe jacked up the transmission and started trying to stick it in at a higher point, maybe where it helped line up better, because we'd like to have one of those pieces for a hoist where you can kind of lean the engine, but we don't have that. So, and then the hoist wasn't long enough, it was bumping against the truck bumper, so we decided to take this out and risk it and just slide this forward a little bit so we can get a little farther back. We got the top two bolts in to get it initially in, and then pushed on it a bunch more, and then eventually got like a bolt in the side and kind of pulled it in, and then worked all the bolts in the sides, and it seemed, we were a little bit worried because it was pretty hard pulling it in. It just didn't slide in there easily. But eventually it's all the way flush now on both sides, and the studs are in. And so we're just hoping everything lined up good. It looked, there was a little cap thing on the transmission we took off, or the bell housing, where you can kind of make sure your rod is getting inside the flywheel and all that, and the clutch. So we were able to make sure that that was lined up, and we turned the crank a little bit just to double check. So it was in, and then we just forced it in there. So you're just in for a good workout. So we just put the engine mounts, we bolted them to the block on both sides, and just had the engine kind of lifted up with the hoist, and then dropped it down onto the chassis, or whatever you call the truck part. So we haven't bolted those down or nutted the mounts to the truck yet, just in case we need to bring it up again for the exhaust, and that's what we're currently working on. Bolting the exhaust manifold on. We're bolting that to the heads, and then we'll bolt it to the exhaust pipe. So we got one on so far, and we were just doing a little Googling, because where's the gasket? Oh, here it is. Just wondering, there's like a kind of a silvery colored side and a smooth side, and we decided that the silver side goes towards the exhaust manifold, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that's what we're doing. And so we'll just bolt on both edges, one side and the other, and then we'll sit this gasket on top, in between the heads and the exhaust, and then stick in all the rest of the bolts. So that's pretty easy.